All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the.
What's going on, Longhorn Nation? BJ with Bad Talks. I'm back for week 1 preview of Louisiana Tech versus Texas Longhorns Saturday night on the Longhorn Network at 7 o'clock p.m. Man, we've been waiting for a while for this day. It's college. There's nothing like college football, and this season and this time of year, it's starting to cool off a little bit here in Tennessee. So, man, we're super excited to get football going. High school football starts on Friday night here. I coach my boys, so football started there. Man, I tell you what, this is exciting time. And it's really exciting time for the University of Texas. I think Texas has finally put themselves back on the map when it comes to college football. I don't like the term "we're back" because like I said before, we never went anywhere. We're Texas. They'll always be Texas, regardless of what the record is. But it's good to see that Texas is back in the national top. Every time I turn on ESPN, every time I turn on a college football preview or something, they're talking about Texas. They're talking about Sam Ehlinger. They're talking about the youth that Coach Herman has, but how talented they are. Talking about Texas recruiting staff right now, second to none in the country. I tell you what, it's an exciting time to be a Texas Longhorn fan. But like I promised, every week I'm going to do a preview of the game we play, of the team we play on Saturday. And then sometime Saturday night or Sunday, I'll go ahead and get a recap. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Again, my name is BJ, and we're just going to talk Texas football. We're going to talk for about 15 minutes, may go a little bit over, but I hope not, because I like to keep it around 15 minutes. I say that every time. But like I said, I got Louisiana Tech coming in, a Conference USA, coached by a young Skip Holtz, and it should be a well-coached team. Last year they went 8-5. They beat Navy in the Armed Forces Bowl 48-45, I believe it was. The quarterback threw for 4 touchdowns. So one thing I noticed about Louisiana Tech, but I've been watching film on them on YouTube and reading some stuff on the internet about them. They're a redshirt senior, redshirt junior led team. I mean, they're all over the field. Their quarterback, Jamar Smith, 6'1", 218 pounds, redshirt senior. Threw for 3,100 yards last year, and I got it written down here, 15 touchdowns. And I think he had 3 rushing touchdowns. So he's no slouch. He was a Conference USA All-American honorable mention. So he's a good quarterback, and he's a seasoned quarterback. He looked like a little stud on film. I enjoyed watching him. And of course, they got the returning running back, Jarkus Dancy, 5'11", 193 pounds. He battled some injuries last year, so they only had like 9 touchdowns or something like that, and 1 or 2 receiving out of the backfield touchdowns. Smaller guy, I think he's 5'11", 193 pounds, something like that, but shifty. And then they got a big wide receiver coming in. I say big. He's a talented wide receiver. Woodard, I think it is 6 foot, 200 pounds, something like that. I think he's their leading receiver for Louisiana Tech. So they have some talent on offense. I don't know much about their offensive line. Didn't really study that a whole lot. I didn't want to waste a whole lot of time talking offensive line, but they got some talented players on offense, and their defense, led by Bob Diaco. He used to be University of Connecticut, UConn's head coach. He was a defensive analyst for the Oklahoma Sooners last year, which we know won the Big 12 championship. And then he came over to Louisiana Tech, take over a defensive coordinator job. His track record stands for himself, being coaching D1 football for over 20 years. So he's a good football coach. I'm not sure. He may have been the coach, UConn's head coach, when they beat Coach Herman in Houston, when he was at Houston. I didn't really look into that a whole lot, so don't hold that to me. Maybe I should have, but seemed like a good little coach. Feisty defense. Their DB's talking trash, that's for sure. The safety, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about that Texas receivers can't stand the man pressure. And they can't hold up to man pressure. They can't handle the man press. One thing I can tell that young man is we're about to find out on Saturday, and we'll get into Texas players here in a minute, of who that safety and who those corners will be facing. Arguably the best wide receiving core in the country, and I'd put them up against anybody, and that not just because I'm a Texas fan. It's because they got some talented wide receivers. With that being said, I think Louisiana Tech comes into Austin hype. pumped up, kind of like Maryland did a couple years ago, and may jump on Texas early because they have a good offense. They know how to score. And Louisiana Tech's always been that feisty team. I'm not putting them in an elite level, nothing like that. So let's not get crazy. But they could play with a Maryland and beat a Maryland team. So if they could beat a Maryland team, why couldn't they beat Texas? And sneak up on Texas, at least give them a run for their money to start the game. But I think Texas will probably be too much for them. And, I'll give that prediction a little bit later. Again, I wrote some notes down here. Let's move over to Texas side of football. All right, Texas. Let's move over to Texas. Coach Herman's third year. As we all know, Coach Herman's been recruiting at an elite level. He finally has his guys. But Texas only goes as far as Sam Ehlinger take them. Sam Ehlinger, again, QB1, is the alpha male, the leader of this football team. That's no question. And these players follow Sam Ehlinger. And he leads them like a quarterback should lead them. Again, a la Tim Tebow. A lot of people compare him to Tim Tebow. I don't see that being a bad comparison at all. Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, pretty good comparison. But it starts with him. Unfortunately, Texas does have some injuries. Running back Young, Kirk Johnson, those guys are down 2 scholarship running backs. So Texas only playing the game with 2 scholarship running backs, and Kente Ingram, which is deemed up. He got hurt in one of the scrimmages, hurt his knee, and then Jordan Whittington, the young freshman that come in. Solid-looking kid, but again, first D1 football game to sit in Cuero anymore. So we'll find out. And then reading some reports this week, Rashad Johnson, the third-string quarterback, has been taking snaps at running back just because Texas is short on running backs right now. And Coach Herman's press conference on Monday, he talked about that. He talked about that being a concern. And rightly so. I mean, it's hard to go through a season with 2 scholarship running backs where, Ingram missed some time last year. Whittington's a young guy. They talked about moving Jake Smith, that young phenom from Arizona, to running back. And I'm glad they didn't, because I think he needs to learn in the slot and learn that very well, because he's going to be dangerous in the slot. Speaking of Jake Smith, it sounds like the starting punt returner. The kid may be one of the fastest on the team. And again, he was this time last year was in 2 days for high school, getting ready to move into week 1 in high school. So I'm so excited and anxious to see this youth that Texas has. And again, when I say youth, I'm talking Brennan Eagles. He's been on the team for a couple years, but he hadn't played a whole lot at wide receiver. But of course, all of our young DBs that are coming out, a young linebackers, a whole new linebacker core except for Jeffrey McCullough. He's returning. The defensive line's young. I'm excited. I used to be nervous about having such a young team, but I'm excited because I know Coach Herman and his staff has recruited at an elite level. That's why I'm giving Louisiana Tech a half to hang with Texas and probably maybe winning a half. I don't know. I just kind of know how week 1's always happen. If you watch the University of Florida and Miami game the other day, you understand there's such thing as rustiness when it comes to football. I see it every day when I'm practicing with my team. There's some rustiness. But Texas, I'm hoping to shake it out by half. I think Texas O-line will be better this year too. We talked about that last week when I did a preseason take on this. I think the O-line's going to be better. Got a transfer in, an ACC All-American from Georgia Tech that's going to start on the offensive line probably. And then got a few returners. Starles Shackelford's back. Those guys are good offensive linemen. So I think Texas will be better up front, which means I think opens up the run game a little bit more. And then, of course, again, I've already talked about our wide receiver core. I think second to none to anyone in the country. Colin Johnson is a top receiver in the country, 6'6". And then you got Malcolm Epps at 6'7", and then Brennan Eagles at 6'6", 6'5", 6'6". Some big wide receivers. So the safety that popped off and said that Texas can't handle the man press, we about to find out, young man, because these dudes can go up and get the football. And then on the inside in the slot, you got some speed. Devin Duvernay didn't drop a ball all year last year, 100% receiving rate, catch rate. Can't get much better than that. And then, of course, Jake Smith, the freshman phenom, speedster inside there. And then John Burt, he's only the Big 12 110 hurdle champ. So there's some speed out there, too. And then, of course, running backs, Keontae Ingram and Jordan Whittington to get all the carries. And I'm excited to see this Jordan Whittington kid because, I watched a 6 touchdown epic performance he put on in the state championships last year, and that was pretty cool to see, especially since my niece is a cheerleader there, and it was just really cool to see. I think Texas tries to establish the run early. After reading, Coach Herman wants to run the football. So I think they try to establish the run early, get Keontae Ingram and Jordan Whittington going, and then, of course, open it up with some passing. And I think, like I said before, Louisiana Tech probably holds it pretty close to half. And then I think Texas runs away with it in the second half. And last year I wouldn't do score predictions, but this year I will. Again, I think Texas wins. And I think it's a 3-score game when it's over. I wrote down 40-21, and I think Louisiana Tech probably scores 21 in the first half, and then Texas shuts them out in the second half, and I hope so anyway. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm super looking forward to it. I hope our guys aren't looking ahead to week 2 to LSU. I hope they learned that over the last couple years, losing to Maryland in the opening game both years isn't acceptable, and so I think Texas comes out and wins this football game handily, and then gets ready to play a powerhouse LSU week 2. And then I ask every time I do a video, I ask for suggestions and stuff like that. And a good friend of mine, he's big into the polls, and he asked me if I would do my preseason top 10, and then every week give a top 10. So Rook, I'm doing that for you, man. I hope you guys like it. Again, this is all my opinion. Just looking over a few things. Of course, I got Bama up there, and they had Dylan Moses. They tore his ACL, tore his knee, so he's out for the year. They had another linebacker out for the year. So that may change some things. That may move Georgia up in the SEC to be favored in the SEC. But right now, I can't see it. I just see Alabama winning the SEC, and that's just how it's going to go. So I'm going to pick big conference champs right now. I think Clemson wins their conference as usual. I think Alabama wins the SEC. It's so hard to go against Lincoln Riley right now. I mean, they've won 4 years in a row in Oklahoma in the Big 12, but I think Texas is a year away from contending for a national championship. But I'm going to pick Texas to win the Big 12 this year. Not undefeated. They will not go undefeated. But I think Texas wins the Big 12 championship this year, solely on because of I just don't know if Oklahoma is going to have much of a defense like last year, and they don't have a Kyler Murray to bail them out again. The Big 10, I think Ohio State wins the Big 10, and then that's the only ones. I guess we could pick the Pac-12. Who knows? Probably Oregon, because I got Oregon in my top 10 in the country. So starting with that, we'll go number 10. I have Oregon number 10. I think Oregon, they got a good quarterback coming back. They got some youth on the team. Of course, Oregon always has speed, but I got Oregon sitting at number 10. It was hard to pick 10 because some of these teams I don't really like. Like I got Michigan number 9. I put Michigan number 9 because I really couldn't figure out someone else that I would want in the top 10. So I put Michigan 9, even though I think they're overrated every year. I think Jim Harbaugh is one of the most overrated head football coaches in the country. Got nothing against him. He just doesn't produce in college football. But I think they got a good team. Notre Dame at number 8. I got Notre Dame at 8. I think AP has them at 9 or 10. But I got them at 8 because they went to the playoffs last year, got a lot of returning starters. Kelly, their head coach, is a great football coach. So I got Notre Dame at number 8. I got our Texas Longhorns at number 7 just because of our quarterback and our offense. Our quarterback and our offense is going to carry this team. We're well coached. Texas is well coached. Good. It's going to be a great offense and then a good defense to keep us in games. I think Texas at number 7 is the right spot. I got Ohio State at number 6. Don't know a whole lot about them, but they got a lot of returning starters, stuff like that, so they'll do good. LSU at number 5. I got LSU at 5 because they got a lot of studs coming back on defense. Got a decent quarterback coming back, so I got LSU at 5. I got Oklahoma at number 4 right now, and I know I just said I predict Texas to win the Big 12, but this is a preseason poll. Oklahoma deserves to be there. They're in the playoffs last year. They got a new quarterback, Jalen Hurts, but he's a good quarterback. But it's hard to go against Lincoln Riley. It really is. Lincoln Riley is second to none when it comes to play calling and coaching and getting his guys ready. So I really like Lincoln Riley as a head football coach. Got Georgia at number 3. Jake Fromm coming back. A lot of defensive players coming back. Kirby Smart, a great head coach. So I got Georgia at number 3. At number 2, I got the Alabama Crimson Tide. Again, 2 linebackers that are injured, but I think it's Alabama and Nick Saban, and so I think they'll be right back in there. And I think they win the SEC. And then, of course, I got Clemson number 1. All right. Clemson number 1. Dabo Swinney's got that train rolling in Clemson. And I'm hoping Coach Herman can get Texas to rolling like that as well. Because, boy, Dabo's got that Clemson team rolling, and I like it. So I got Clemson at number 1. So I'm going to predict my 4 right now for the playoffs because this is preseason. It may change, but they can't change because I'm just going to keep the prediction all year. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm going to do Clemson number 1, Alabama 2. I think Notre Dame gets in again because of their schedule. And I think Oregon gets in this year. I think Pac-12 actually gets in this year because Oregon doesn't have not a whole tough schedule, really. I mean, Pac-12 is about as weak as it comes right now. And my dark horse at 5 would be Texas. I think Texas has a chance to get in. So Clemson, Alabama. Man, I don't know. That's tough. Ohio State could get in too. If Ohio State and Oregon are tied at the end, I think they let Ohio State in because they always favor Ohio State for a reason. But I'm going to leave them out. You know what? I'm going to go Clemson, Bama, Notre Dame, and Oregon in the top 4, and Texas will be my number 5. All right, I'm going to wrap this thing up. I see I'm almost at 17 minutes. I don't like going this long. I do feel like I'm talking fast because I try to rush through it. But again, I think you lose people when you get to 15 to 18 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it down here. I appreciate you tuning in. I'll be back on Saturday night or Sunday sometimes and give we'll talk about the Texas-Louisiana Tech game. Again, I think Texas wins by 3 scores. And let's go win week 1. Go 1-0, Texas. Hook 'em. Thank you for tuning in, Longhorn Nation. We'll be back Sunday with the recap of the Louisiana Tech versus Texas Longhorns. Hook 'em.